if we want to truly understand what Judaism is, we need to look at the result, the product, what we want to achieve. What's the goal of Judaism? As a collective whole, what's the goal of Judaism? The goal is to bring about redemption, to bring Mashiach. But when we scrutinize what exactly that means, the result is a little bit difficult for us to fathom. Because if you're thinking about redemption as a wonderful utopian time when we get reunited with all our loved ones, that'll be great. That's part two, that's Tchiyat HaMetim, resurrection. But we have a time when everything becomes good. All evil is eradicated. It's Ruach HaTum'ah Ha'avir Min Ha'aretz. There's no more negativity in the world. What an awesome and amazing time, which we're looking forward to, a time of redemption. But if you look deeper into what this means, the central element of redemption is to be able to keep mitzvahs the way mitzvahs are supposed to be kept. We today are actually unable to keep some 4/5 of the mitzvahs. That means we talk about Taryag mitzvahs, which is the 613, but if you actually look at it, 4/5 of the mitzvahs we actually are unable to keep. The reason is because in order to keep the mitzvahs, you have to have a land, a holy land. It has to be a time of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple, and you have to be able to offer korbanot. Most mitzvahs of Judaism, the vast majority, are one way or another associated with korbanos. That is, the sacrifices in the Beit HaMikdash. Now, to be honest, that creates a problem for us. Because nowadays, we like to consider ourselves more modern, forward-thinking people. And that ritual of offering animals on an altar, on a mizbeach, is really, really foreign to us. Like, imagine one day, we're going to go back to that way of living, which is to offer korbanos. So yes, when redemption comes, the Torah doesn't get changed. Torah hazot lo tehi muchlefet. You cannot say that some of the mitzvahs will not be anymore. So you got to get with a program, and you have to know what a korban oila is, and a chatas, and a shlamim, and an asham, and that if you don't make hagoimo when something goes right, that's a current product. What you really do is you offer some korbanos, you offer sacrifices, and if you do something wrong, b'shogeg, inadvertently, you have a korban that you do, and if you're not sure if you did, there's an asham talui. So there's all these different sacrifices. Now ask yourself the real question: which do you prefer? The current product or the real product? Note the difference. Ever since we lost the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, what do we have? Uneshalma parim sfateinu. In lieu of the korbanos, what we do is we pay for bulls, uneshalma, to pay, parim, bulls, sfateinu, our lips. That means we offer lip service, which is a positive. We talk to Hashem. Got a problem? Talk to the one above. Chat with him. And davening is Ezohi avodah shebelev zu tefillah. Tefillah, davening, means a deep introspection into your heart. It's about feeling connection with Hashem. It's about building a deep connection with the Almighty in your life, connecting, feeling, asking him for what you need, and feeling his presence in your life. Davening is about sitting down there and allowing yourself to feel and experience Hashem's presence in your life. So let's say Psukei de Zimbra, which is the whole beginning of davening, is all about just reflecting and wondering at how awesome Hashem's presence is in the world, and then seeing it in the angelic world. And then you can say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That I really experience that Hashem is Echad. I really feel it. So it's work, it's hard work, and it's work that takes place inside of us. Well, one day, as we say in davening, we will get a redemption. V'sham na'aseh lefanecha kemitzvat retzonecha. And then we will be able to do the mitzvahs. Mashiach is not the end goal, it's actually the beginning goal. Meaning, right now, you're not able to perform mitzvahs the way they're supposed to be. When the redemption comes about, then we will be able to perform mitzvahs for the first time. And that creates a very challenging element in Judaism. Like, what does that mean? And one day, so instead of when you're excited in the morning, what are we going to do? What's the day? Well, every morning you offer a sheep, and then in the afternoon another one, and then on Shabbos we have a little double extra, 2 sheep more, the Shnei Chvasim, because it's Shabbos. So yeah, korbanos. Very difficult for us to understand this. There's actually quite a delightful story that takes place where it's used in context of understanding what Judaism is. So the story was told by Reb Leibel Eger. Reb Leibel Eger was the son of Reb Shlomo Eger, the grandson of Rabbi Akiva Eger. And he told the story once, because what happened was, this is one of the classical Hasidic stories. So Rabbi Akiva Eger was one of the great scholars of Judaism ever. And Rabbi Akiva's son was Reb Shlomo, who was very opposed to the Hasidic movement. Now, careful when you do one of those things, because what happened was he was a huge misnagid. He was very against Hasidism. And what happened? His own son decided to test the waters. Kids always like to do whatever you don't like. That's what they try. So if you get very opposed to it, they get very into it. So his son became a Chassid. He became a Kotzker Chassid. So he went to Kotzk, and that's what he became. When he did, his father, Reb Shlomo, tore Kriya. That means he sat Shiva and tore his garments and considered his son dead. And it was a real calamity for him. I don't think we understand just how bad things were today. Today, nobody knows what the difference between the one and the other is. Like,
what century?
It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
What century?
200 years ago, give or take. And so Reb Shlomo was very upset about it. But then after a while, he was like missing his son. So he wanted to know what happened with his son. What's he like? And, in other words, is he still like religious? And does he still learn Torah? Like, what does this mean when you become a chassid? How's that look? So he sent a messenger to Kotzk. Now, the truth was that Reb Leibel was very true to what the family was. He was pretty much identical to his father and his grandfather. But the external look didn't quite fit that, in the sense that a messenger from Reb Shlomo comes over, and he comes into Kotzk. He's looking for the holy, great scholar and pious Gaon, Tzaddik, V'Kadosh, Rabbi Leibel Eger. He says, anyone know the Gaon Tzaddik, Rabbi Leibel? And nobody knew who he was talking about. And finally, someone says, oh, I know who you mean. You mean Leibel Shlomo Akivas. They had a first name basis. He was not known by all his, holy titles. He was just on a first name basis. So, yeah. He says, I know who he is. If you go to the shul, you'll see him sitting. They have there was a second room. Every shul, every Hasidic shul needed to be built with an extra room, because if you want to spend more time in meditation and davening, you need an extra space to go. So he says you'll find him in the back. So he goes inside at the back, and what does he see? Middle of the day, he's sitting over there with a little bit of mashke on the table, and some cookies, mezainis on the table, and they're sitting and singing, and they're fabranging. That's how they spent their time in Kotzk. So this guy walked in, and somehow he didn't fit the picture. So Reb Leibel didn't know who he was, but he noticed right away who this guy was. And the guy sat down at the table because he's got to bring the father, a real understanding of what's happening with his son. So he right away notices, and he looks, and he switches and says, I want to tell a story to the guys. He says the story was that in the Galilee, in the land of Israel, at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, there lived a Jew. And he was already a very learned and scholarly Jew. And every time the rest of the Jews used to go to Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash, he didn't go with them. Now, going to Yerushalayim took many days, up to 2 weeks, to walk to get to Yerushalayim. And then you had to spend a week there for Yom Tov, and then you had to come back. And then when you went for Pesach, you basically came back, checking things going on. Then you went back again for Shavuot. Because there's only 6 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot. So he felt that those days which it took to walk to Yerushalayim was an absolute waste of time. It's called Bitul Torah. That if you're not learning Torah, it's not good. So therefore he says, forget it. I'm not going. So for years and decades, he never went to Yerushalayim. Just didn't go. One day, he's getting old. And he decides that, okay, I can't not go to the temple to see what's going on there. I have to go to the Beit HaMikdash. So finally, he decides, you know what? Taking the trip. Takes a few days off. He's learning the whole time. Takes a few days off, and he goes. And he describes the scene. He says he comes in and he sees from afar this most gorgeous, beautiful structure. Because, it says whoever didn't see when Hordus built the second base, when he rededicated it, whoever didn't see that building never saw beauty in his life. It was magnificent. It was the most absolutely gorgeous, incredible, unbelievable structure you ever seen from afar. So he's excited about it. Now, think about it. What would you expect to see in the Beis HaMikdash? You ever walk into like one of these places, like walking to Yeshivas Ponevezh or Mir or BMG, and you see like thousands of people. It's a scene which is unbelievable. Sitting there with standers, and they're sitting, and there's like this roar in the middle of learning of everybody fighting with each other and arguing. Well, that's what he expected to see in the Beis HaMikdash. It's holy, right? It's like this absolute roar and thunder of Torah study. Yarchei Kala, back in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, it used to be this. The Gemara describes it with all the dust that would come up. Like the whole place was dust up as everyone got up. They were sitting on the dust. So they would get up and from the floor, and the whole place was just full of clouds of dust. So he's expecting that kind of scene. He gets in, and the Beis HaMikdash was the furthest thing from that. It was basically blood and animal parts strewn all over the floor. And you're going around, like this guy's shouting and he's like throwing and past the blood this way and then walking the blood there, and the other guy's there. Very busy place. But it looked much more like a slaughterhouse than a yeshiva. And he walks inside, and after all these years, like, this is what Judaism's about. This is the Beit HaMikdash. This is it. So Reb Leibele looks at this fellow and he says, this is Judaism? And he points to the table. When you sit down and you're drinking a little bit of mashke and a bit of kichel and some herring and you're having a farbrengen, that's Judaism? He says, but what was the Beis HaMikdash? And he left it at that. So, there's got to be something else in Judaism which allows us to really grasp it. And somehow, these korbanot are very, very central. Everything we do is around the korbanot. Like, we don't have korbanot today, so let's daven, let's do shacharis, let's do musaf, let's do this. So much of life is all associated around the korbanot. If we want to understand why, well, what we want to do is understand what it even means to offer a korban. How does davening replace korbanot? What has davening got to do with korbanot? Like, we're talking to Hashem, you're doing mincha, and that's instead of the korban tamid. You could have said, do 3 long jumps and then a few jumping jacks, and that's going to replace it. What's davening got to do with offering an animal on the altar, other than that it's something? But what is the connection between one and the other? When we take a look at davening, we see it's actually exactly the same. It is korbanot. Offering an animal on the altar is exactly the same as what you do when you're davening. And then will come the key, which is, okay, so why do we want the korbanot to come back? Because there's one key element that's missing in our davening today, and that is going to be transformed when we get to redemption. And that's why we offer the korbanot then. All this is based on a revelation that Yaakov made to his sons. Remember, he wanted to reveal to them when the Geula is coming. So he wants to bench them and give them a bracha and tell them when Mashiach is coming. When he gets to the fourth son, Yehuda, he lets it all loose. He lets it out and he says, Yehuda, lo yasur shevet mihuda umchokek miben raglav, ad ki yavo Shilo velo yikhat amin. He says, Yehuda, you are the progenitor of Mashiach. David comes from Yehuda, Mashiach comes from David. Mashiach is Shevet Yehuda. The scepter will never go away from Yehuda. There will always be, throughout history, one way or another, a king from Yehuda, until Shiloh comes. Who's Shiloh? That's the Redeemer. That's Mashiach. Velo yikhat amim, and all the nations will gather to him. We want to focus on the next word, which says, Asri legefen iro velasoreka beni atono. Very poetic. What it means is he takes his donkey, his male donkey, and he ties him to the grapevine. And he ties his mule, the female donkey, to the branch. Kibeis bayain levusho. He washes his clothing in wine. Ubedam anavim suto. And he washes his head covering in the blood of grapes. The blood of grapes is called wine. So somehow there's this wine imagery associated with redemption. And that wine, the wine-making process is very connected to how we daven and understanding how we daven. And we'll take a look at what that means, how you make wine and how you daven, and how that is the ultimate of redemption. Redemption is when your mule is tied to the grapevine and you're washing your clothing in wine and your head covering in the blood of grapes, in another type of wine. So how do we make wine? Why do we make wine? What is the process of winemaking in our lives? What does it mean to us? And how is that connected to bringing about the redemption, which is when we're going to offer korbanot again, right? That's the subject matter we're going to study right now. So how do you make wine? Well, not that I'm an expert in winemaking, but in order to make wine, you need grapes. And in order to get the grapes, what you want to do is squeeze the grapes. There are different types of grapes. There are, in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, there's grapes which grow on top of the vine. They are called daliot, the high grapes. The best type of grapes are the ones that are on the bottom. And you have to understand wine tasting. Now, I'm not a connoisseur of wine tasting. Actually, my mechutin gives hechsherim on wine in France. And so when he comes to when the wedding took place and everything, he brought different types of wines that he has a hechsher on. And then for the first time I started to understand, like he says, I said, this wine doesn't taste like anything. In fact, by me, the cheaper the wine, the better it is. Like the $4, Fabrengen, Rashi, Kesser, those types of wine, best wines. The more expensive it gets, the more it's like impossible for my palate to grasp the taste. He's like, no, you got to understand the taste. And then he's explained to me that the reason is because it's the type of glass you drink it in. You have to let the wine breathe. And then there has to be a cup made like that and not like this. And should you put it in the fridge or not? And there's a lot of stuff to know about winemaking. Well, let's go through some of them. Wine comes best from the ragliot. That means wine comes best from the stuff that is on the bottom. That's why it's on the bottom. It's the heaviest. It's got the most juice in it. And the way you get wine is by drichat anavim bagat. You step on it in a vat. You step on the grapes, and then they come out. So think about the analogy as follows. Every Jew is a grape. Where does it say that? In Tehillim, King David said, Gefen mimitzrayim tasiya. He says Hashem drove the grapevine out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt. He looks at us and he says, you are my grapes. What's a Jew got to do with grapes? Very simple. A grape is a fruit that it's got an externality and it has a taste and a texture to it. It looks wonderful on its own. But the grape actually contains one of the greatest drinks that mankind enjoys inside it. In order to get that stuff out, you have to take the grapes that are on the bottom, the lowest, and then you have to step on them. And then what you discover is that this liquid comes out, and that liquid, if you allow it to ferment, work it becomes beautiful, tasty wine. Yayin yisamach levav enosh. Wine makes a human being happy. Wine brings happiness. There are different types of wine. There's white wine and there's red wine. White wine is happy wine. White wine is rejoicing. Red wine is generally associated with intoxication. Red wine is more about bitterness. You can become bitter from wine and you can become excited from wine. It's a different taste of what wine does to you. Think about it this way. Each one of us is a grape. There's an external skin that doesn't look like anything. It just looks like you're a normal, regular person having a regular life. Inside you, deep inside, your soul is buried wine. Beautiful drink, a wonderful and incredible drink that's inside you. And our work, our avodah is to bring that wine out of us. If life would just be normal and nothing would happen in life, meaning just the way we like it to be, which is that you have everything you need, health, wealth, children, everything goes perfect. Hashem should help everyone to have that. But if you have that, you never get wine. You get wine when the grapes droop to the bottom and you step on them. It's very uncomfortable to be stepped on. It feels horrible. You feel stepped on. You feel used. You feel abused. But that process, if we look at it in a new light, we'll discover that what's really going on in our lives is we are discovering wine. We are discovering a beautiful brand new liquid that lies inside our souls. And what we want to do is be able to extract that liquid from within ourselves and to find it in us. So here's how the wine comes out. What does it mean to be stepped on? Well, you have a certain notion of what life ought to be. So here's how most of us work. We have dreams. If I ask you a question, what do you want life to be? So you have this goal, I want life to be, and you'll say, well, I want to have, insert the blank. I want to have this, I dream of so-and-so, and that's what I'm yearning for and looking for. And then you ask the person, and when you have that, how will you feel? When you have your dreams all taken care of, how will you feel? And what you'll get is euphoria. Insert some beautiful, incredible excitement and wonderful, glorious, beautiful feelings. That's what you get. And then you say, I wish I had that, but what's real life? Real life is, well, where I am is not necessarily where I want to be. So I look at my life right now, and I realize that the dreams that I have actually block me. It's because I dream of that wonderful euphoria. I'm like, why Hashem, just can't you give me that beautiful, incredible excitement that I want in life? Why am I suffering with whatever I'm grappling with right now? And in that disparity between the two, where you want to be versus where you actually are, where you're dreaming of being, those dreams cause all the negative feelings. What do they cause? Frustration, anger, upsetness. Then there's like this, sometimes you resent that you're feeling frustrated. You're like, my life is so good. Everything's so amazing. Like, look, things are just wonderful. So why am I upset? Why am I not happy? But then you add one more feeling. Oh, now you're also resentful of why you're not happy that you're not happy. And I want to be safe, and I don't feel safety. And I want to have something interesting going on in my life, and life is so boring. And it's just not happening, and I'm not feeling significant and relevant, and I'm not feeling impactful, and I'm not feeling spiritual. And you'll go through all the 6 different emotions that there are, and altogether there's 6 emotions, right, of what you want to be. So the Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and that's a Hoid Yisoid. I want to be a happy, and when you're yearning about success, like, yeah, then I'll have nachas, and I'll feel like I worked on it. Nobody wants a free lunch. And I'll feel safe. And I'll feel unique. And I'll feel significant. And I'll feel spiritual and altruistic. Those are your 6 emotions. But right now, what am I feeling? Well, where I am now, so it's just not exciting. And therefore, I feel, and now you see all the negative of those. I get addicted. That's chesed gone wrong. I feel down. What happens there? Therefore, I get an addiction. I feel like I'm not doing something that's worthwhile. I feel that I'm not safe in my life. I feel that I'm not doing something unique. It's boring. It's not significant. It's not spiritual and altruistic and meaningful. And in that space is where you have all negative thinking happen. Why does negative thinking come about? It comes about because you want to control the situation. So you have a dream of how it ought to be. And then you're like, so why am I not there? Hashem, why am I not there? Then you start crying to Hashem. And then you're pushing to, I want this to happen. I want this. And Hashem, why can't this happen? Why can't I get what I want? And then you daven and you scream and you cry. And then what happens? And then there's a lot of stuff to do in between. So addictions are great. Depression is wonderful. And, anxieties and losing yourself in all negative things. And we become so addicted to those negative feelings that we're sure that's the way you live life. What we want to do is learn how to offer our animal each time to Hashem. So there's a wilde chaya inside you, a wild animal, which is roaming freely inside you. Can you see the wild animal? Every animal is a different feeling, a different experience. Sheep, down. Goats, goaty, right? A bull is goring, right? Every animal is a different type of feeling. And those animals, you know them intimately if you care enough to analyze and look at yourself. And you'll see the animals are living inside you, wild, untamed. And what you want to do is be able to offer them and bring them close to Hashem. The process of offering an animal on the Mizbeach is take an animal, bring him to the altar, to the Mizbeach, but then allow him to be suck the life out of him in order for him to be completely aligned with God. Try that with your feelings and watch how unbelievable and powerful it is. What you want to do is take every feeling and suck the life out of him. So feelings are very alive. When you're depressed, you're convinced you're depressed. It is, I am. It's so real. Every one of those feelings is just an animal acting out. And he's got a lot of life to him. And what you want to do is identify the animal, number one, which means get in touch with yourself. How do you do that? You add one word to your lingo. It's called feeling. Nowadays we love feelings, right? We all talk about feelings all the time. We're getting towards Mashiach Zeiten, the times of Mashiach, because I'm feeling like a girl today. I identify myself as such. Now, those are true. What you feel is absolutely true. Anyone who doesn't admit that, that's very true. But the problem we have nowadays is if you feel something, it must be that you are that. No, that's the difference. If you feel something, must be that you feel that. That's true. Yes, you do. When you feel something, stop saying, I am down, I am depressed, I am grieving, I am upset, right? Say, I feel. And look what happens when you change that lingo. I feel hurt. Okay, I'm not hurt. You see the difference? If I'm hurt, then I identify myself with being hurt. If I feel hurt, Right away, that lingo changes it. Okay, I'm feeling hurt. Okay. Now you can actually model and understand and get your hands on that feeling and say, okay, I'm feeling hurt. So you sit down and you feel the feeling and you let yourself feel it. Right? And then what do? Well, after you feel the feeling, so now you have an animal. Now you suck the life out of him by saying, I'm feeling hurt. Okay? Focus fully on the hurt feeling. Just that. What we try to do is control the hurt feeling. So we say, why am I hurt? Oh, you hurt me? I'm going to hurt you back. Or, I'm not hurt. I'm not really hurt. I'm not at all. You see how you're not doing the avoida, the work of offering korbanos to Hashem. You're not offering your feelings over to Hashem. Because you're not admitting the feeling. So what you want to do is actually admit and get hold of the animal inside of you. As soon as you do that, as soon as you feel the feeling and you know what you're about and what is going on inside of you, now you're poised to take control. You don't need to solve anything. Only Hashem solves things. We don't. And it's this part, it's probably the hardest thing ever. Because we really, really, really like to be in control. Like it takes so much for us to realize that we're not. We know we're not, but we think we are. And so we're always trying to solve the problem. You don't need to solve the problem. What you need to do is just take the animal, whatever you're feeling, and say, okay, I'm feeling this, and then offer him to Hashem. Say, Hashem, animal's all yours. Who's the animal? I'm feeling hurt. Okay, Hashem, I feel you right now in the hurt. And it's actual work. It'll take you a long time of every day dedicated to this type of way of thinking. And once you get used to it, it becomes so empowering. Because, okay, so I'm feeling hurt, right? I had an argument with someone and I'm feeling very hurt. Feel it. Don't go solve the problem. And then after you feel it, you identified the feeling. You'll probably find every time 5 or 6 animals. When you're hurt, you're not just hurt. There's other things. You're humiliated also. And you're angry and upset and resentful and whatever else you are. And then you offer them to Hashem. You say, Hashem, this is yours. I feel you with me right here, right now. That's the process of offering an animal to Hashem. The way we do it is, there's 2 parts. Let's go zoom out a second and look at what davening does. Davening is us recognizing the might of Hashem in our lives. So when you're davening, you're reflecting and meditating, as we discussed last week, gazing at Hashem. You're gazing at Hashem's presence in your life. Because ordinarily, if you look at the room right now, you don't see Hashem. You're not seeing in physicality, you don't see Hashem. When you daven, what you're doing is you're thinking about Hashem who loves you. And you're thinking about, wow, Hashem, who is he? What is he? So you want to be able to reflect on the power of Hashem. What that means is, nothing bad is happening at any given point in time. There's nothing wrong going on. All you're seeing is the might of Hashem everywhere. And in davening, it's about noticing God. Paying attention to the fact that Hashem is just ever present in everything that's going on. It's amazing. You're just seeing God. So, you're staring at Hashem through all sorts of lenses, and you're seeing Hashem's presence in the natural world, and you're thinking about all sorts of things that go on in the world, and you're finding Hashem, and you're noticing that Hashem is right there, right present in the world. And then what do you say? And then you look and you say, wow, so Hashem is unlimited, and I'm little tiny me. I'm so nothing. Like the worlds are nothing compared to Hashem. Hashem is unlimited. We are limited beings. That's part 1. Now comes part 2. The unlimited God encapsulated himself inside of you and inside of Torah and mitzvahs. So nothing in life is worth anything because it's all transient and not real. Only Hashem is real. But if you go and light Shabbos candles, So as you strike the match, just ponder for a second and think to yourself, well, I'm just striking a match and lighting a candle. It seems like nothing. But think to yourself how I am now a conduit to divine energy, which is working through my ability to strike a match and light a candle. Because if the Torah says to do it, so when I'm ushering in the Shabbos and I'm keeping the Shabbos right now, what am I doing? I'm literally right now in this moment becoming a home to the divine. Nothing else can house the divine. Only you, a Jew who does a mitzvah, can house the divine. See what that does to you? It changes your reality of how you view things. That's why we say in davening, it says, "Uzchartem et kol mitzvot Hashem." What does that mean in English? To remember Hashem's mitzvahs, right? But uzchartem also means, zachar is a male. Uzchartem et kol mitzvot Hashem. Make the mitzvahs males. A male is the dominant one. Stop looking at mitzvahs as something you do. Well, yeah, do the mitzvahs. Meditate on the mitzvahs and make them the dominant force in your life. Make them male. Uzechartem, it's called mitzvot Hashem. Make the mitzvah intense and powerful. How? It's through deep meditation and reflection on what a mitzvah is. And then you'll start seeing and you'll look at yourself, wow, I have the opportunity to do a mitzvah. And suddenly every little thing you do is like unbelievable. And then you say, mitzvahs are not just Shabbos candles and once a week. Mitzvahs is actually every single moment of your life. So what's the mitzvah if you're down? Feeling sad. Is there a mitzvah now? What's the mitzvah?
What?
If et Hashem b'simcha is actually not a mitzvah, but they say there's no mitzvah that's going to elevate you more than the mitzvah, more than the one that's not a mitzvah, and that's simcha. So absolutely, it is incumbent on us to be happy at all times. So if you're feeling sad, that's so amazing. You know why? Because now you can do a mitzvah and be happy. Because it's an opportunity. Every single thing that happens is an opportunity to change and to do a mitzvah for Hashem. Now there's mitzvahs that are all the time, right? Shesh mitzvot midiyot, for example, emunah. Having emunah in Hashem is a mitzvah of the Torah. Feeling awe of Hashem, loving Hashem is a mitzvah. Now look at yourself and say, someone hurt me and I'm feeling down. So now I sit myself down, hard work, and I'm analyzing what I'm feeling. And I'm saying, okay, I'm not sad. I'm just feeling down, feeling humiliated, feeling hurt, grieving, feeling this, feeling that, all the feelings that I have, put them on the table, each one. And then you say, and Hashem is with me right now. And add to the equation that this is the most unbelievable thing ever. Because what I'm doing now, through flipping each one of my feelings, as I'm doing this process of feeling Hashem's presence, is making my life meaningful. I'm now doing mitzvahs. Every time I'm switching and flipping and finding simcha in the moment, I'm doing a mitzvah. It's unbelievable. I get to do a mitzvah of Hashem, of bringing Hashem's emunah into this moment. So I feel the hurt and the humiliation. The story the world is telling me is that that lady hurt me and she upset me. And so I need to get back at her or to do or to fight her to do it. You don't. What you need to do is just get into a happy zone. Flip the feeling, so I'm feeling down. Feel Hashem's presence right there. And then you daven in the morning, right? So when you daven in the morning, you know that Hashem is right there and ever present. And now you're like, okay, now take that davening from the morning and bring it to now. Because now I'm able to express and experience a mitzvah of Hashem, of changing my feeling into a feeling of oneness with God. That the mitzvah now becomes alive. Because you could do a mitzvah and just say, okay, light the Shabbos candles, okay, trust Hashem, be b'simcha. Or you can look at yourself and choose, and it's a choice, to notice what is going on inside of you. You are discovering the wine, the beauty inside your soul, inside who you are. And what's unbelievable and amazing about it is when it actually works. When you actually notice This young lady called me the other day. She told me she's being basically, she's being really like humiliated and picked on the way she feels it at work. So she called to ask if she should leave work. I don't know who she is, but she just called me up. And she wanted to know if she should leave the work. So I said, okay, leave. She says, no, she's really being paid well. And so she doesn't know what to do because she's stuck, because she gets good money, but she's not happy. So she was calling for advice what to do. And I'm like, listen to her thing. I said, do you want to hear another perspective? It sounds like you're feeling very humiliated at work. And you have a question, and you're asking me, should you leave or should you stay? And that's the question. I said, but maybe we can try a third perspective. And that is, you know why you're being humiliated at work? Because you're humiliated. That's why. Because you're allowing yourself to be humiliated through feeling humiliated. If you would grab hold of the feeling and you would feel the humiliation and say, oh, I'm really feeling humiliated over here. I'm feeling hurt and I'm being abused and I'm feeling abused. And you grab hold of it. And instead of, before you try to solve the problem, just feel Hashem's presence in your life. You'll notice that it's very difficult to hurt and humiliate people who are present. People who are just feeling in their own power are difficult to hurt. You can only hurt someone who gets hurt when you hurt them. But if someone like just feels Hashem right there, and they look back at you and they're like, sounds like you're trying to hurt me, essentially absorb the negative energy. So I take your feeling of being hurt, feel the hurt in myself, and I say, it feels like you are being, nasty and humiliating. And I identify your feeling for you. Either I say it out or just feel it for myself. But now I'm in control of my feelings. Our avodah in life is to offer sacrifices to Hashem all the time of the animals inside of us. And what you discover is that it's a powerful thing to be doing. Because if you constantly identify the feeling, feel Hashem's presence, go right back to being centered, people see you as a human being. They see a mensch. Otherwise, you walk there and every time someone knocks you down, the energy's like, oh, down. It's very difficult because you're all the time being knocked this way, that way. It's very challenging to just stay present. The avodah is, and it's very, very, very difficult. That's why it's the most central thing of Judaism. It's to offer korbanos, because inside of us is a beautiful wine. How do you bring out the wine? You're going to be stepped on. What does stepping on mean? It means someone humiliated you, and now you're feeling stepped on. And instead of being stepped on, what do? You step on yourself, basically. There's the lowest grapes, and then you step on yourself. And you say, I'm feeling this feeling, and you walk right into it. You know what you're going to discover? That when you step on a grape, wine comes out. And when you identify exactly how you're feeling, and you feel it right there, and then you feel Hashem's presence entering into you, that blend of your giving your feeling over to Hashem and allowing Hashem's presence to be inside you creates wine. And when people see that, that's not a grape, that's wine. That's what a Jew is. Gefen mi Mitzrayim tasiya is Hashem drives the gefen out of Mitzrayim. That's you every time you get out of that feeling. So when Yaakov wants to give a bracha to Yehuda, who's the king, where Mashiach is going to come out of him, what does he say? He says, Yehuda, you're the father of Mashiach, you're the father of the Goel, you're the father of the Redeemer. As I look at you, and what do I see? I see someone who Asri legefan Iro. Your Iro is your, what's an ayar? Ir pere adam yulad. An animal. What animal? A wild donkey. Exactly. So the pasuk says, ayar pere adam yulad. Every man is born a wilde chaya. You're born a wild donkey. What you're born is untamed. And if nobody tames you, you go crazy in life. That's what's happening to us. You have a dream, you know what you want to feel, and you're not there, and you're feeling over here, so you jump about, and you're like, I don't want to be this, I don't want to do this. Okay, I'm a girl. That's it. Like, solve the problem. And you don't realize how crazy the world has become. But forget the world. Us. How often do we ourselves act out like crazy people? Like we look normal, but we're actually really, really seriously insane. And it's a problem. That's the wild mule. A man is born that way. Yaakov tells Yehuda, he says, Asri legefan, Iro.
Asri means what?
Le'esor means to tie, to bind. Beit Asurim is a prison. I want you to tie your wild animal to a geffen. What's a geffen? The geffen is the beauty, the grape, where you find the wine from. I want you to start realizing that wild animal is actually a divine, godly connection that you're experiencing. And what I want you to do is tie yourself to the grape, to the vine, which means instead of being tied to, we're connected to a result. We bind ourselves to a result. If I get my dream, I'm happy. If I don't, I act out. This is the therapy. Don't tie yourself to the dream. Tie yourself to Hashem. Bind yourself to Hashem. So you tell Hashem, I want that dream. That's what I want. Okay? Let go. I don't need it anymore. Bind yourself. Asri legefan iro. It doesn't say, by the way, Oser legefan iro. It says Asri. The diktuk is another yud. A yud is the first name of the letter of the name of Hashem. Yud Kei Vav Kei Oser Yud Legefan Iro. Every time something happens, find Hashem in it. So now you'll look at life and you'll see life is full of little things that go on all the time. Little tiny things happen all the time. And what happens? What you want to do is find Hashem every step of the way. I feel this, I feel that, I feel that. All the time. Your feelings, notice them. And then just bind it to the geffen and say, wow, I see some wine inside there. I feel Hashem's presence right there. And you'll see the wine will start flowing. Nichnas yayin yatsa sod. What's the secret? The secret is the neshama of a Jew. It comes out when you let it out. And it's hard work. Because what do you mean? It's very nice, but I want that. You don't want that. You think you want that. When you allow it to come out, the beautiful wine starts pouring out. And then he says, Kibes bayayin levusha. You want to wash in wine your garment. What's your garment? The garments are the mitzvahs. Every neshama comes down to the world to do mitzvahs. And you could say, mitzvahs, okay, I'm doing mitzvahs, I'm doing wonderful things. Your mitzvahs need to be washed in this wine. Every time you do a mitzvah, every time you light Shabbos candles, every time you have bitachon, every time you do something, step back, look at yourself and say, this is unbelievable. I am getting to, Hashem is unlimited and he's bligvul, and little me gets to, I'm nothing, but I get to do a mitzvah. And Hashem is manifest right through me. And when you think about that, what you're doing is essentially laundering your clothing, that's your mitzvahs, you're passing it through this wine. Because you could choose to just do a mitzvah, just do the mitzvah, light the candle and do it. Or you could say, I'm going to reflect and meditate before, and I'm going to wash the mitzvah, the garment, in the wine. And what does it mean to wash it in the wine? It means to feel like, notice how unbelievable this is. There's a neshama inside me and I get to do mitzvahs. Every negative feeling is an opportunity to bring Hashem into the picture. And the mitzvahs are just places where Hashem is manifest and it comes about through me. The more you think about that, the more your life becomes fun and exciting. It's just like it changes your whole being. And the blood of grapes is a deep form of wine. And then you see susoi is your head covering, your face covering. It's a different way to look at things. It's a ksusoi. It means you're covering. Ksut is the same word, right? So you're covering your face with the blood of grapes. What does that mean? We are all grapes. Hashem calls us grapes. Gefen mi Mitzrayim tasiyah. And he says, I want to discover in your grape what life is. You're not letting Hashem in. There's this skin of a grape. It doesn't allow anything to come into it. Inside that grape, what do you have? Wine. Your life, every step of it, if you just step on it, notice Hashem right there, feel that, feel how Hashem comes through, and the wine in your life will start flowing. And you still want to start washing all the experiences in your life every time something goes wrong or right. And every time you do a mitzvah, you want to wash it in the blood of grapes and in the in the wine, in the beautiful wine, to wash your life inside there, because then you'll realize that, this is unbelievable. All that is called the avodah of korbanot. You're sacrificing your own animal, your own ayar, and you're sacrificing it to Hashem. And you're saying, Hashem, this wild animal is you. It's connected to you. When Mashiach comes, we'll go one step further. And what is that? Well, right now, we could argue whether the world around you changes or not. You see, what really happens is, when people start noticing a mensch, what's a mensch? An Adam. What is Adam? Adam is Adameh la'elyon. It's one who looks up. He sees Hashem. A behemoth looks down. She sees what's in front of her. Adam is a mensch. He sees God. Adam is someone who, every time something happens to him, he just notices the presence of Hashem, and you feel that. And when Mashiach comes, it says, Gava, the Navi Yeshayahu says, right? Yarum benisa vegava me'od. He'll be extremely exalted. Me'od. Mem Aleph Dalet is Adam. You'll become a true Adam, a true mensch, a true human being. See, what really goes on is that you'll see in life, as you experience the goodness of yourself, you cause good things to come your way, and they just people gravitate to you, and good events happen to you when you're in a good space. If you're trachting gut, it wird sein gut, it actually comes about. When do we get to actually see that? We don't know what korbanot are today. We can't relate to this idea of taking a cow and bringing him over to Hashem. But the truth is that every single little thing that happens in the world, every single cow, what is he? He's really a divine energy. What's the biggest tragedy for a cow? Biggest tragedy is to die. Now, that was pretty ridiculous. You just died without any purpose. One day, Peter will be sitting over there, and they're saying all cows need to be elevated to Hashem. Now, the greatest thing for a cow is to be offered on the Mizbeach, because then his life became worthwhile. That part is a part that we're missing. To truly align the world around us, to feel Hashem's presence, that will happen when Mashiach comes. So the avodah of korbanot and tefillah is exactly the same thing. What's tefillah? Waking up in the morning, noticing God. Noticing that Hashem is right there. And David HaMelech says, Va'ani tefillah, I daven all day long. Everything that happens to me, I don't pray, I am a prayer. I'm a tefillah. All day long, things happen, I notice Hashem, and I keep on, wow, Hashem, I notice you, I feel this, I notice that, Hashem is right there, and the wine starts flowing. And one day, we'll get to the point that Sham Na'aseh Lefanecha Kemitzvat Retzonecha will actually be able to see how this happens in the world around us. That day is coming about already now. The world's got to a point where feelings are so dominant, that's because our feelings have an effect on everything out there. And take a look. Someone who is in their element, feeling their feelings, knowing and bringing Hashem, draws goodness to them and changes the world around them. When Mashiach comes, that one step goes all the way. And that is that you can actually notice it in the world around us. So we don't know what that part means. That's why we don't have korbanot. But when he comes, you'll actually be able to see how your amazing and incredible connection to Hashem actually affects the animal, and by extension, the whole world around you. That's the part that's missing. But our job is to bring it about, to make it happen. Every time you notice Hashem in your life and you're offering the korban to Hashem, Hashem is being revealed. And you will see the world around you will change. When you become a mensch, the world will notice, and the whole world follows you.